Hi, I'm Spencer Campbell from Gila RPGs, and this is the third video in the How to Play RUNE series for the ongoing playtest for RUNE. In this scenario, I'm going to be playing out the third scenario in the tutorial packet, and I'm going to be adding and teaching you how utility gear works in the game. And you can also see that I have a slightly more complex combat scenario. This is the third scenario in the tutorial packet, so if you're watching along and you're interested in playing this, you can find the tutorial packet and all the materials on the RUNE website. It's in the description below. Maybe you've already tried the tutorial and you're not sure how this works, or you want to see how your fight goes compared to mine. We'll see how I do here, but the goal here is to show you not only a more complex combat, because there's 3 enemies compared to the previous video's 2, but I've added a new type of gear that my character has, which is utility gear, which is represented by this thing down in the bottom left, Light's Radiant Amulet. So let's talk about that first before we just jump into the fight itself. Utility gear is a second type of gear that characters in RUNE have access to. Every character can hold up to 2 weapons. In this case, I have my trusty longsword and shield that I've been using in the previous videos, and 2 utility gear. Utility gear are things like amulets, rings, armor, other things that give us sort of bonuses in combat that change the way that we play. There's different types of utility gear. In this case, the type of utility gear that I'm using is called a locked gear. I'll talk about that in just a second. You can have up to 2 pieces of utility gear on your person in a fight. Now, in this fight, I only have 1 piece, and that's intentional. A character that has 2 weapons and 2 pieces of utility gear is considered a late game character in RUNE. That's a lot of stuff to keep track of. It adds to the complexity of the game pretty rapidly if you just throw a bunch of gear onto your character. So this fight that we're seeing represents a fight that you might see a little bit later in RUNE. Not one of the first things that you would experience, but something that happens after you've got your legs under you and you've found some cool gear. So if you're watching this and you're going, wow, there's kind of a lot going on, just know that this is sort of a representation of a later character, but even still not the latest, because I only have 1 piece of utility gear on me. Let's talk about that piece of gear. I have Light's Radiant Amulet. In the tutorial scenario, you get to choose between this or another item. The other item allows me to deal more harm every time I'm throughout combat, but I also take more harm, and since I'm fighting 3 enemy soldiers, I don't really feel like taking a bunch of harm right now. Light's Radiant Amulet is a healing weapon, or a healing item. It allows me to start recovering harm that I've taken throughout the fight. So far, the only way I've been able to mitigate damage in the previous 2 videos is to block it with my shield. Now, if I have any harm coming in, I can start to recover it. That's going to be really helpful. You saw in the last video how beat up I got. It's going to be nice to be able to recover some of that health. This is a locked piece of utility gear, which has a specific sort of way that it works. There are 3 types of utility gear. Passive gear, just as long as you're wearing it, as long as you have it equipped, it just gives you an ongoing effect. You don't need to activate it. You don't need to do anything. It just gives you some sort of cool bonus. Locked gear, like in this case, the Light's Radiant Amulet, works very similar to how weapons work. You can see that it has values, kind of like the values of the longsword and the shield, and an effect that it has. But it is a locked piece of gear, meaning what I can do is if I decide to use one of these things, like heal 1 harm at the start of each round, and I have a 4, I can lock that 4 into the amulet, and I don't take that die back every turn when I'm rolling my stamina pool in the future. And I just have an ongoing healing effect at the start of every round, as long as I keep that die locked away. I can always retrieve the die at the end of any round, so if I eventually decide, you know what, I need that die back, I need to just kind of I don't need to heal anymore. I'd like to have more dice so that I have more options with my longsword and shield. Then I can pull it back. The third type of utility gear that's not seen here on the screen is a charged form of utility gear. It doesn't have any values that are required to roll, but instead you can put any type of die on that card, and that is the number of uses you have of the item while the die is there. So if I had a charged item and I put a value of a 3 die on it, I can use that charged item 3 times throughout combat before I get that die back, and I can use it again in my stamina pool. So you can see that these utility gear provide exactly that. Utility, they change up the way that combat works. You can start to now move towards specific builds. Maybe you want to be really damagey, a glass cannon, then take the utility gear that makes you deal and take more harm. Maybe you want to be a little bit slower, more methodical, that sword and board rolling approach from Dark Souls. The Light's Radiant Amulet is probably the thing that you want. There's going to be a bunch of different types of utility gear in RUNE, so you'll find the stuff that works best for you. The one other big change between this and the last video that you see is that I have a stamina pool of 3 now. It's because I have 3 items, so I now have more stuff, which means I need more dice to decide what I'm going to do with that stuff. It also means I have more decisions to make, so we need to just keep that in mind as we move in throughout these steps of combat. I've got 3 enemy soldiers here, which means I need to die for each of them to see what they're doing. I have a little tracker over here for how I'll be tracking their health, so you won't see their health tracked on screen, but I'll keep you updated in terms of how the soldiers are doing. Now that you've learned how utility gear works, let's run through the tutorial scenario and see how I do. I might die. I don't know. We'll find out. So, how does combat work in RUNE? Let's remind ourselves. Step 1, figure out what the enemies are going to do. I'm going to just go left to right here on the screen in terms of rolling the dice and see what my enemy soldiers are going to do. I got a 4, a 5, and a 3. So a 4, a 5, and a 3. All right, so what are my soldiers going to be doing? That's step 2, is moving them. Are any of them moving? Well, in this instance, 4 is moving closer. So this soldier is going to move closer to me. This one's going to move further away. They can't move back, but they can move left. Left is further away, so I'm going to move them left. The one on the right is going to move one closer. I'm going to have them go there. I'm already starting to get boxed in, even though this one moved away. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I get my 3 dice to decide what I'm going to do with my turn. I get a 1, a 1, and a 4. Not a particularly strong roll to start. Let's take a look at this. What can I do with a 1, 1, 4? Well, 1 doesn't do me much good on any of my stuff, which means if I'm going to use these 1s, I might sum them up with something else. A 4 is pretty flexible. It lets me move, deal harm, move, block some harm, or I could lock this 4 away right away and just start healing. In fact, I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm not going to do that. Maybe I'll wait to activate my amulet and just try and hurt some people at first. No, actually I am. So you can see that this is kind of the puzzle of RUNE, is figuring out how can you best use your stamina dice. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's, oh wow, I really got to figure out if there's any kind of good options for me this turn. I'm going to lock this away. So I'm going to heal at the start of every round. And these 2 don't do anything for me. So I'm going to just sum them into my sword here, deal 1 harm, but I'm not going to actually hurt anybody because I'm not near anybody. Step 4 is move me. Am I moving? No, none of my stuff lets me move, so I'm saying put. Now we deal harm. Nobody is next to anybody. Nobody is in range, either in the same space or an adjacent space, so nobody gets hurt. So we go back to the start of the next round. Now, because I've locked in this die, it's going to stay there, unless I decide to bring it back. But I have a feeling I'm going to start taking a lot of damage, so I'm going to keep that locked away for now. Let's see what our enemy soldiers are going to do. I'm going to go left, then down, then to the right with my 3 rolls here. I get a 3, a 1, and a 2. Doesn't really matter what order I write these in. They're all doing the same thing. 1 to 4, they're all going to move 1 and deal 2 harm to me. Okay, here comes some harm, I have a feeling. So let's move these soldiers a little bit closer. I'm going to move this one here, and I could move, I'm going to move this one here. I could move this one here, or I could move it here and kind of start to box me. I think I'm going to do that. Actually, no, I'm going to move here so that they start to kind of push me towards the center. Notice, that's an instance where I, as a player, get to kind of decide what is interesting for me. What do I want the enemies to do in terms of movement to create the scenario, the fight that is going to be maybe most compelling or maybe most advantageous to me if I'm starting to feel like I'm up against the ropes. Okay, so they've all moved. What am I going to do? I only get 2 dice to roll for my stamina pool because I've locked away this one for some healing. So let's find out what I'm going to do. I rolled a 1 and a 6. Rolled a lot of 1s in these tutorial videos, which pretty painful to do, but we'll see what I can do with this. A 1 and a 6. Well, already we know right away we can't sum these. That makes a 7, not going to help me. Which means this 1 is going to just be a dead die. It's not going anywhere. I don't need to worry about my amulet anymore, so I'm just focusing on my longsword and shield. 1 doesn't help me. A 6 does. A 6 is pretty nice. A 6, I can block a bunch of harm that's coming in towards me, or I can move and deal 3 harm. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on the offensive here. So I'm going to just not use this 1, and I'm going to move 1 and deal 3 harm. Now, where am I going to move? I'm going to move on top of one of these soldiers. I'm going to move right here on top of this soldier and amplify my harm, knowing that I'm also going to take some harm in return. So, speaking of, it's time for step 5 to deal harm to one another. I'm going to deal 3 harm to the soldier, plus 1, because we're in the same space, which is 4. That's enough to kill this soldier. I'm going to kill them. But they do get to hurt me back. In this case, they are dealing 2 harm to me, and I don't have any blocking going on, so that's increased by 1 to 3, and I'm taking all of it. So, I go down to 7 HP, but I do manage to kill the soldier right away. Okay, that's the end of the round. Start of the round, hey, I get to heal 1 harm at the start of each round. So my 7 goes up to an 8. Okay, that amulet is starting to pay off. Yeah, I went in and took a beating from that one soldier, but my goal is to be able to kind of recover at least a little bit of that so that the ongoing fight doesn't become too bad for me. So let's recover my stamina pool. I'm going to keep that 4 there because the healing worked out well for me. And let's see how the fight continues. Let's roll for our soldiers. I'll roll for the one on the bottom and then the one on the right. I got a 6 and a 4. So we don't need this die anymore. A 6 and a 4. All right, so step 2 is moving the soldiers. The 6 isn't going anywhere. It's going to just stay there and deal 3 harm if I move anywhere close to it. The 4 is going to move closer. They're going to move 1 step closer. They're going to deal some harm to me if I stay put. Okay, now it's time to figure out what I'm going to do. Step 3 is rolling my stamina pool. Yes, it says 3 at the top, but one of my dice is locked away in the amulet, which means I'm only going to roll these 2d6. I got a 6 and a 5. Finally, I got to roll a pretty good roll here. All right, this is pretty good. 6 and a 5. What am I going to do in this instance? Well, what can I do? A 6 allows me to block a bunch of harm, which, yeah, I could do. But right now, I'm not going to take a lot of harm from multiple sources, so I don't think I'm going to do that. 6, we do know, is very effective at killing enemy soldiers, though. What does a 5 allow me to do? It allows me to move and deal 2 harm. Pretty good, but right now, if I have the opportunity, I'm going to kill an enemy soldier. So I'll put this 5 here. I'll get some blocking going on, and I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to move on top of this, and I'm going to kill it while taking a bunch of harm myself. Okay, speaking of, let's get to that last step. Let's deal harm to each other. I'm going to once again deal 3 plus 1, because we're in the same space, to 4. Get to kill this soldier. They're not blocking anything. They're going to hurt me, though. They're going to deal 2 harm to me. But this time, I get to block. So they're going to deal 2 plus 1 because we're in the same space. So they're doing 3 to me. I get to block 1 of it at least. So I'm going to take 2 harm and, not 56 health. That'd be great. 6 health left on me, and I kill this enemy soldier. Now, I kill them. I've taken some harm. We are, this guy's just swinging around in the air, not hurting anybody. It's kind of that weird Soulsborne logic that you see with enemies sometimes, where they're just kind of wildly doing their own thing. When I get my dice back at the start of every round, I heal. So, hey, all right, back up to 7. Not bad. 7 versus 1 soldier, I'm feeling pretty confident. I think it's time for us to, in the next round or 2, finish this fight and be done with the this current tutorial scenario. So, but let's start with, what is the enemy soldier going to do? They just get 1 die, so there's just 1 of them. I got a 3 for them. In this instance, they get a 3, which means they're going to move 1 closer and deal 2 harm. So I'll move them here. Could move them to the right. I just like up. So they're going to move up. I'm going to keep the... I didn't take it back, so I'm going to just keep that amulet running because the healing's been going great for me so far. Let's roll the 2d6 to see what I get to do. I got a 3 and a 4. Okay, 3 and 4. Can't sum those because that goes past 6, so I gotta have to use them individually. What does a 3 and a 4 do? 3 doesn't do anything for my shield. Okay. 3 and 4 do the same thing with the longsword, though, so kind of self-explanatory turn. I'm going to put that 4 on the shield to block a little bit, and I'm going to take the 3 over there to deal some harm. All right. what can we do? Well, I could move right on top of that enemy soldier. If I really wanted to, I could move on top of them and deal 3 harm to them, or I could stay away and kind of block and recover and everything like that. I'm going to be slightly less aggro this round, and I'm going to just do one of my 2 moves. I'm going to move here and be ready to harm them. Speaking of, that's the spot that we're in right now. We're going to deal harm. I deal 2 harm to them. They don't have any kind of blocking going on, so their health is going to go down to 2, which actually I could just track right here on the card because there's only 1 soldier left. They go down to 2. Okay, they deal harm to me. They're going to deal 2 harm to me. I'm blocking 1 of it. Great. So I'm going to go down 1 HP. Now I could put it down. Yeah, I go down to 6, but also it's the start of a new round. That's going right back up to 7. The amulet is paying off. But also, I think at the end of the round, actually, yeah, I'll keep it on. I could take the die back instead of getting that healing and just really have 3 dice to make sure that I kill. But I've been enjoying the healing. Why end a good thing? So let's go ahead and recover my stamina die and have our soldier determine what they're going to do on what is likely their last turn in life. They rolled a 6. Okay, so they're going to stay still and hurt me if I decide to stay next to them. I'm probably going to stay next to them and try and kill them, but let's see how painful that's going to be for me. Here's my 2 dice. I rolled a 5 and a 6 again. Ooh, okay, well, we all know how effective that has been in the past. We will see. Sorry about that. We will see how that goes now. Okay, let's see how our 5 and 6 treat us. What can we do with a 5 and a 6? We can move 1, deal 2 harm. Well, I do need to deal 2 harm, so okay, that's good enough for me. I could also move 1 and deal 3 harm. I could really overkill this person. Or I could block 2 harm with my 6. I'm gonna do that. I know I'm taking harm. I might as well reduce it as much as possible and put our necessary harm over on our longsword. Move? I could. I don't really need to, so I'm gonna stay put. We're gonna just hurt each other now. We get to step 5. I deal 2 harm to them. They're not blocking. That's enough to kill them. Okay, I'm going to kill them. They're going to deal 3 to me. I'm blocking 2 of it, so I'm going to go down 1. I'm going to kill them. And if we were going to continue, if I had more soldiers, I'd recover some HP, but I'm not going to because we're at the end of combat. There's no start of the next round, so I end the fight with 6 health. Pretty good. Actually, honestly, went way better than the last fight where I got down to 2 health, I think. So you can see already that the amulet has paid off. I think I healed like 3 times throughout that fight, so I would have been at 3 health. I also got pretty lucky with some 5-6 rolls that really let me kill those soldiers right away. How did your tutorial 3 go? Did you manage to kill the soldiers? Did they kill you? Did you use the amulet, or did you take the item that let you deal more harm while taking more harm? Play around with it. Try both versions of the scenario and see how it works for you. You now have a better understanding about how RUNE's combat works. You've learned the basics in the first video, you've seen how multiple enemies changes things in the second video, and now you understand how utility gear works. The other videos that you'll see in this series will be shorter videos where we won't go through a full fight, but instead I'll show you some of the features that haven't been shown off in the tutorial scenarios, including things like terrain, hazards, things like traps, and 2-handed weapons. So I hope you've been enjoying these. I hope you enjoy RUNE, and I'd love for you to try and playtest it. Like I said, you can find all the playtest material on the RUNE website. The link is down in the description below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!